and welcome to the Mahindra Transport Excellence Award Series 2012 on ET Now. A series of panel discussion that aims to look at the opportunities and the challenges faced by the Indian transportation sector. And to do that, we have an eminent panel over here with us in our studios, and the topic of the discussion today is human resource, a challenge in the transport space. So let me start by introducing you my panel today. We have Sudhir Badami, Transport Analyst, Co-founder, Sustainable Urban Mobility Network. We have Mr. Sati Raju, CEO, Delex Cargo. We have Mr. Saurabh Goyal, MD, ThinkLink Supply Chain Services. And Mr. Ramesh Agarwal, Chairman and Managing Worker, Agarwal Group. Welcome, gentlemen, on this show. But before we start this panel discussion, we have Mr. Nalin Mehta, CEO and MD of Mahindra Navistar Automotives Limited, joining us from Pune. So let's see what Nalin has to say about this topic. Nalin.
Siddharth, this is really a big issue in the transport industry to get the right skill set and also the right quantity. Sometimes I feel if there is something which could come in the way of the growth of this industry in the coming years is the availability of people to run the industry. Popularly, of course, the driver issue is thought to be the number one issue in this in this regard. Surely there is a crisis building up there. There is a driver shortage, and I keep hearing that for every 10 trucks there are only 8 drivers, and perhaps 10 to 20% of the truck stock doesn't go on the road on a particular day because the driver is not available. But more than the drivers, we also see a general shortage of skill at all levels in the transport industry. Whether it is the fleet managers who manage the fleet and the drivers, most of them have come out through experience, and there are no programs and qualifications available for them to acquire. Neither is this industry able to attract the right kind of educated people to bring a change. Over to your panel, and I look forward to an interesting discussion.
So there you heard, gentlemen, Nalin has set the pace for this panel discussion. So let me begin by asking my first question to all of you guys. Is this really a cause of concern? Do you think India is facing a shortage of skills in the transport industry? And what are the probable reasons behind it? We can start with you, sir.
As the economy is growing, the need to transport is also growing. And number of trucks manufactured are there, number of them flying all over the country is increasing. You need the drivers to drive it. It's not a track on which it can run solo. So therefore you need drivers, and I think they are human beings, they need to be trained. Right now I think it's just transfer of a person who is washing the trucks, getting to be driving, and then he's on the road.
Okay.
So I think there is a shortage, and trained drivers shortage is there.
So what do you think are the probable reasons behind it?
It's just the growth rate.
Okay.
I think we in the country have underestimated the growth rates, and we are concentrated only on certain aspects, and the crucial aspects we forget. Okay. And that happens in every other area. Some balancing has to be done on all aspects.
Okay, we've talked about balancing. Mr. Sati Raju, you have any feedback on that? What do you think is the reason behind this shortage of skilled labor?
See, there is a social change in our country. A lot of income levels are increasing. People want to go back home in the evening to have a social life, watch a TV, spend time with families, versus the drivers who are going to drive, unlike the pilots of an aircraft, these people are supposed to do an entire trip all by themselves. Start in Bombay, go to Delhi, 1200 kilometers. One driver is supposed to complete it, and en route he has to sleep, he has to eat, he has to be himself. Probably, and the return that he gets for that probably is less. So it's no more attractive for a person to pursue a career called driving. Probably, that's my feeling. There is no established reports that I read. So that's probably one of the reasons that driver wants to start, then see the other avenues paying as much or maybe a little more, so he doesn't want to do driving anymore.
Mr. Goyal, you're in the supply chain business. Do you agree with Mr. Badami and Satiraju on this?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Satiraju. He spoke about the fact that there are the reports are not there. But if you look at the report which the National Skill Development Corporation brought out, it clearly says that within the logistics and transport sector, there are about 20 million people, trained people who are needed by 2020. So, if you sort of do the math, that's about hundreds of people needing to come out trained every day for us to be able to meet that challenge. The economy is changing, modern retail, e-com, overall workplace needs in terms of more mechanization, technology, etc., which means people need to be trained before they can actually go and run a job role. And earlier, obviously, as we've not had a logistics industry in India, so there has been no sort of real pipeline of developing talent at any level, whether it's truck drivers or warehouse managers or supply chain managers. Sort of people moved into those roles by default. Just that at our size now, at a growth rate now, it will no longer work, and that's why we have a shortage.
Okay, Mr. Agarwal, you're in the packing and moving industry, so you have a big group and you need a lot of labor in this industry. So what do you think, what do you do to attract talent to your sector?
There are 3 crore people working in these industries. And out of 3 crores, there are only 9% people who say to the management part, like manager and driver. Then second comes operators. That's almost, you can say, there's the 25% people. So less than the ground force. You can say floor people, like includes drivers, mechanics, and so. So of course, we say that managerial staffs, there's an MBA institute and we can get from easily.
Yes.
And the operator, if you talk about skill, we even don't get unskilled.
Okay.
And the third is, I'm talking about because I had made a survey in 1982. There were 1,310 drivers out of 1,000 vehicles. Then reduced to 1992, 1,000 vehicles and 1,000 drivers.
Okay.
2002, again reduced to 890 drivers out of 1,000 vehicles. Then the 2012, it has come 750 drivers out of 1,000 trucks. And talk about 2022, there will be only 480 drivers out of 1,000.
So you say the ratio is kind of shifting. So coming to, I see a lot of growing concern of unskilled and skilled labor both in the transport sector. What do you think corporate entities and the transport industry should do to attract more talent to this sector?
Like Mr. Agarwal mentioned, we need to take care of them, and after them, see what happens to these drivers. In case of accidents, there is a demise, or because of the lifestyle that they are undergoing today, the stressful life which they don't realize at that young age, they die early. So their families need to be taken care of. That assurance is required. That's one part. The second thing is that I think you got to have, just like the pilots and also motormen in the railways, there's certain hours of travel, and perhaps you got to have some kind of shift system where the drivers change, the vehicles do not change, so that the driver is able to have his necessary sleep.
But Satiraju sir was saying that they're doing a 1,200 kilometer stretch. A single guy is doing that. So do you system working in this space, Mr. Satiraju?
Ideally it should work, but today it doesn't work like that. There are a lot of companies in India, they have started some good driver practices. There are many transporters who talk about great driver practices, providing recreational facilities. A pan-India transporter having one center of driver restrooms or driver compound for every 1,000 kilometers and give them a lot of comfort. But all that is focused within that organization. So the organization's head or the promoter has a heart to support that community. He does that. And somebody entering new would always look at what is the investment that I have made and how much return I am getting. Am I running my trucks fully or not? That will be the focus. Probably they reach that level of looking at the drivers as one of the most important resource for the organization and spend on them on a driver restrooms or driver training initiatives after 25 years, after 20 years of the organization's existence. So what I feel is, like, if we as a country, as an economy, as an industry, all of us think that we should address it in a structured way, there should be some sort of a body formed, maybe the Transportation Vehicles Manufacturers Association and users or the Transporters Association together form some sort of a body, kind of a CIA kind of a body, and they come up and say, all of us contribute money, set up these centers, There will be national highways are anyway mapped, and these are fixed routes, and identify points, set up these centers, make the transporters participants, pay them probably per kilometer 1 rupee kind of a money, and then contribute, create whole lot of structure and organize that.
It comes out to be a very nice solution. We'll be talking about these kind of solution initiatives with all of you. It's time for a very short break on this episode of the Mahindra Transport Excellence Award Series 2012. But don't go anywhere, because this discussion continues on the other side.
Presented by Mahindra.
Discover a pause. Discover detail. Discover shade. Don't just see, discover. EOS and EF lens technology. Canon.
The watering hole. Like any predator, it's where half-knowledge too likes to visit. What it's looking for is yet another unsuspecting victim who could fall prey to its free and frequently wrong advice.
Planning on a new car, I heard.
Advice on cars, phones, stocks, you name it. So who will be its next kill? Uh-oh, not him. Half-knowledge must back off, or else predator will become prey. The Economic Times against half-knowledge.
Welcome back. You're watching the Mahindra Transport Excellence Award Series 2012 on ET Now with me, Siddharth Sharma, and I have a eminent panel over here with me discussing the human resource challenges in the transport space. So we were discussing about the human resource, skilled and unskilled labor shortage in the transport sector. Now, let's come to the solution. You know, do you think this industry would be able to meet future requirements if, you know, ratios keep on dropping, the driver-to-truck ratios? Mr. Agarwal.
We have 4 stakeholders. You can say one is the transporters, second is the manufacturers, third is the consumers, and the fourth is the government. So this 4 has to come together and make some model so that this can be scaled. And I'm happy to say the manufacturers, Mahindra, they have come and given a recognition to this industry.
Okay.
Really, the whole industry is very much happy because they have recognized the driver. Yes, he is like a soldier. And once they are there, then economy is there. Then GDP is there.
You've talked a very nice point. You know, Mahindra has been in the space of honoring men in the transport space. Talking about, you know, not just the drivers, India is a young economy right now, a young country. We don't see a lot of youngsters get into this space. You know, a lot of them are not attracted towards the transport sector per se. You know, if they have a family-run business as well, they are not driven enough to join it. There's no glam factor to the industry.
See, I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer, did my engineering from IIT Delhi. And like you said, you know, one of the challenges that we face at ThinkLink and, you know, a lot of people in industry face is that, you know, getting educated people to come into this industry is difficult, right? Mm-hmm. And every time we go to a campus, we want to hire, really have to make a strong case and say why supply chain or logistics is going to be a career where you can spend 20, 30 years, have fun, make good money, which is what people also want to do, and grow yourself. Right? And the message that, you know, I can personally give is I've spent 10, 12 years in this industry. It's a fascinating career. There's a lot to do. You're making things happen. The GDP of the country moves with what you do. There's a fair amount of technology, skills, management, business, finance, all of it goes into running a supply chain. And therefore, for young people coming out of the job market today, they should really look at supply chain logistics as a career of choice. And for us, as Agarwal Packers and Movers, or ThinkLink, or Delex, or Mahindra, you know, as a sort of a stakeholder within the industry, we have to go and make a pitch to the young people and tell them why this career is good for them, right? And then we have to create all the levers for them to believe that this career is good for them and they'll be able to grow.
Probably Mr. Goyal, you're the right person, the right role model for the youngsters to get into this business. So there you have it. And we talked about this issue, but what do you think, in terms of the training facility? Like Mahindra has come up with this Empower initiative with IIM Ahmedabad for youngsters to get in to this sector. What do you think, other than that, what all, companies or logistical companies like yours or the government can do to, better the training facilities? Or are there any adequate training facilities right now, do you think?
See, there are a couple of things that come to my mind. Like one, like you today, armed forces also advertise, you get a mobile at the age of 19 and you get...
Better the training facilities, or are there any adequate training facilities right now, do you think?
See, there are a couple of things that come to my mind. Like one, like you today, armed forces also advertise, you get a mobile at the age of 19 and you become to handle laptop at the age of 22, something like that. Some kind of a marketing is required to attract that talent. And probably the other thing that can happen, I still remember way back in 1997 when some high-end trucks introduced into the market, there was a buzz in the transportation industry that 1,50,000 is your annual salary, they will drive in an air-conditioned cabin, etc., etc. And I saw a bit of discussion going on. I used to handle a warehouse that time, receive a lot of truckers, and a lot of truckers used to talk of, next month I am getting onto a air-conditioned cabin driving and all that. So what I feel is the manufacturers are and some sort of legislation, they should work together and say, above so many tonnage, above so much of vehicles, the guy should be a graduate.
Do you think, training initiatives like the Empower really helps?
Very useful, and I'll share something which, we have actually done with Mr. Satyraju's company. So we've recently launched an initiative as part of ThinkLink, where we've taken fresh graduates who are unemployed, and we've tied up with Delex as one of our partners, where they have interned with some of these companies for 6 months. And they come one day for a week for a class with us. In 6 months, they get trained to run a logistics operation, which is the first step in the Indian logistics industry. No one was ever trained to run a logistics operation. They get practical work experience with the logistics operator. And in 6 months' time, the operator has trained, talented workforce available to go in. We spoke about the fact that we need to attract people. Now, because this is a structured program, what has also happened is when we advertise these sort of vacancies with our partners, about 25 vacancies. We got more than 3,000 applications, right? So if you structure it right, you create a partnership between users, providers, go to campuses, talk of the wonderful career they can make, what are the opportunities, I think we can turn it around. And we've seen it happen.
Gets attracted because he's getting paid to get trained. He's actually joined our company as a management trainee or something like that. He gets paid a stipend. That stipend he takes it to the institute to pay his fees. So he works for about 4 or 5 days in a week, does some practical learning that he does. Then he attends the academic classes 2 days in a week, and at the end of it he gets a 6 months or 7 months, he gets a certificate. He's accredited, qualified, kind of a thing. But some sort of standardization of these accreditations and industry recognizing them. Somebody should say, so and so qualified with graduation with 2 accreditations should only be employed on a 40-ton plus vehicle. Something like that. If there are some rules with a salary level defined,
we hope they'll come soon. Well, the future looks better with the Mahindra Empower initiative and also Mr. Goyal's initiative in this transport sector. But it's time for a very short break on this episode. But don't go anywhere, because this discussion continues on the other side.
Lufthansa Runway to Success, the brand new TV series where your big business idea takes off. A stage for SMEs just like you to pitch your story and impress leading business icons to be crowned the winner and open doors of possibilities. With a sponsorship to Cambridge, a Lufthansa business class ticket to Europe, a coveted Thai mentorship, and a 3-month mentorship from Kanan Partners. Wait no more. This could be your big opportunity. Log on and register today.
Instituted by NABARD, the prestigious awards that recognize and reward innovators who've made a significant impact on the quality of life in rural India. NABARD presents Rural Innovations, Gaon Badhe to Desh Badhe, a series on path-breaking rural innovations that have inspired change in rural India. In episode 5, catch the exciting innovations of LV Prasad Eye Institute, Easy Mantra Technologies LLP, and Dinkar Rao Onkar Vag. Only on ET Now.
an initiative by NABARD.
Enter a world of dreams and experience entertainment like never before. Sangura, the world's biggest Bollywood musical ever. Enjoy a never-ending variety of exotic Indian dishes at Culture Gully.
Maruti Suzuki presents
Chubru, a musical comedy on stage.
Not only is he a fool, he is a fool in love.
Come, join the celebrations only at Kingdom of Dreams, Gurgaon.
ये नहीं देखा तो कुछ नहीं देखा.
ET Now would like to thank all its viewers for making it the #1 English business news channel. ET Now, India's #1 English business news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching the Mahindra Transport Excellence Award Series 2012 on ET Now, a series of panel discussion that looks at the opportunities and the challenges faced by the Indian transport sector. So, gentlemen, what do you think, the role of business owners, government and the training institutions in India to get skilled labor in the transport space? What do you think are the initiatives that should be taken up by all the four, parties in this sector?
Basically, I think salary is one criteria, but I think the life of a driver has to be considered. If the same driver is to travel from, say, Mumbai to Delhi, 1200 kilometers, and return to his base, and it takes 1 week before he comes, but instead of coming back to Mumbai, he may be sent to Jharkhand. So his movements are not necessarily from coming back to his hometown. I try to see an analogy about the state transport bus drivers. They are actually hovering around in the neighborhood of their village. So they are able to reach their hometown either the same evening or maybe the next day.
But how can all these entities come together and train people for, especially for the transport sector in India? Not talking about the passenger transportation, but as in terms of cargo and freight.
One of the things which came to my mind is have a pool of drivers and have a business of drivers, responsible drivers, and companies pick up these drivers from wherever they want. Like you have hiring the people, what you call driver hiring companies for driving people home in their cars. Similarly, some such concepts should be developed which should be safe. It has to be safe.
Safe and trained drivers should be provided.
It's like what I mentioned in the initial part of the discussion where I said everybody should come together, create these hubs where drivers come and rest. That could be a pool of drivers, and this pool of drivers, probably a Bombay pool of drivers, will operate only Bombay, Bangalore and back. So somebody brings a vehicle from Delhi to Bombay, leave it here with this pool takes over and runs the vehicle. So the fellow who comes from Delhi can take a return trek and go back. Something like that probably can thought of. Today it's working in some sense. It's not that drivers are really going haywire. Somebody travels with his load from Delhi to Chennai, will always look for a return load and he'll come back to Delhi. It's not that he goes on different routes. If he doesn't get a return load, then he goes on a trip.
But if you talk about, this is something that should be initiated by the supervising level or the managerial level as well. So do you think, people are less trained or they need more training in supervising and managing their fleet as well?
More than training, I guess it's the environment that has to change. Individually, each transportation company runs it in its own way. Versus if there is a legislation sort of a thing which says that a driver should not be working continuously for more than 3 days, and in that he should at least have a mandatory 6 hours rest, something like that. These legislations, if they come in, and if people start checking whether apart from their salary, are they getting their benefits, are their PFs are remitted on time, are their ESIs remitted on time. Today, labor inspectors can come and walk into any office and check everything. But how will they check a driver? So they should have centralized IT system. Some highway on a highway, labor inspector should stop a truck, enter the Aadhaar number or a driving license number and see whether his last PF is remitted or not, his last ESI is remitted or not, so that his benefits are given to him. Those kind of assurances, if they are in place, probably people can, the youngsters will get attracted that there is a structure, there is a process, we are taking care, salaries are good, statutory coverage is good.
It's absolutely right. If you go to offices or factories, there are clear rules defined around how it should happen. And we don't have to sort of, invent some of this. If you look at the larger, more developed economies where large transport businesses have existed, some of these things around fixed driver hours, benefits, hubbing systems to ensure that they get off days, go to family, at least once in a month, if not more often because they're on the road. All of that can come in. Now, there are two sides to this. One is we can wait for legislation to happen. And second is, like Mr. Agarwal said, the drivers to trucks ratio, as an example, is going down. So regardless of whether legislation comes or not, we will have to change the benefit structure for the driver to ensure that our trucks move. Because as a country, we really can't afford for it to not happen, right? So I think this will happen. It will happen because we will not be able to find people to run these processes, and the industry will have to change, create the right incentive structures, training.
Mr. Agarwal, you are in an organized, company, and you've been running it very efficiently. What are the initiatives that you took, in terms of your workforce?
We made a driver seva kendra at Jaipur to Ajmer, that Dudu. There is 500 cots, 500 people can sleep there, 500 blanket, 500 fans, 10 bathrooms, 10 barbers, sevadar, parking, that 50 acres.
Okay.
There is a total plot. So that's called a seva kendra, driver seva kendra. Their motive is that the driver should sleep at least 6 hours per day. So since 6 September 2012, we had made an opening of it, and till date, we could given a sleep approximately 22,000. And this, because of 22,000 sleep, there could be escaped people getting die approximately 58.
Wow.
58 people from one single seva kendra. So in India, there is a 2,48,000 kilometers national and state highways. And if we say 450 kilometers each, one center should be there. So there will be only 450 or 500 seva kendras in country. Each cost is 20 crores. It is hardly 9,000 crore. And once there is 9,000 crore rupees government spend it, they can get against it 5,400 crores against motor vehicle accidents claim. Then the 13,000 crores they are paying for goods accidents, goods damages. Then there are 30% cases in the court, only motor vehicle cases. Approximately, we calculated there is 27,000 crore government is paying in 1 year. If they spend 9,000 crore, it can be only they can save. That means this is only 4 months, 27 days. They can recover this money. This is a simple solution.
One step at a time, sir. And I think you're going in the right direction. And that was a very valuable insight that you portrayed over there. And with that, it's time for us to wrap up this show as we've run out of time. So thanks for watching and stay tuned to ET Now.
Hello and welcome to a brand new show, CIO Calculus.
I think what you're seeing with the BRICS is basically a cyclical slowdown, not a structural change. BRICS and frankly other emerging market countries have captured the imagination of global investors.
The good old days as they were are over, but we still have a very long-term road to drive, and things will certainly improve in the medium term.
Catch CIO Calculus Global Markets in 2013, only on ET Now.
There are some birds too lazy to build their own nests. Instead, they seek to occupy one that's already built. Much like half knowledge in a conference room. It will wait patiently for an argument to take shape. And once fully formed, it will fly in to roost.
That's exactly my point of view.
Which is? Well, not this time. It's up against a formidable adversary. The Economic Times against half knowledge.
Presenting the new SsangYong Rexton by Mahindra. Indulge yourself.
Welcome to Investors Guide. You're watching ET Now. This is a show for retail investors. We help you find the right investment products in the market. We'll help you put them together and create a great portfolio that will make you rich in the long term. This week, we're focusing the show on a very important question. What's going on with